This cooling system has left BMW owners broken down on the side of the road more than any other system. And today, we're replacing every single piece of it. Now, not only am I going to show you every single step of the repair process, but when I'm done with this car, I'm going to give it away to a lucky subscriber for completely free. No strings attached, no paid entry, no paid for shipping. I'm gonna deliver this car to you personally. Just one lucky subscriber getting a fully restored free BMW. Now, if you're a BMW owner, you already know that the cooling system is the Achilles heel of any BMW. The M54 is an absolute tank, but if you have a coolant leak and overheat that engine and you warp the cylinder head, you might as well just send it to the scrapyard. And that's why the first system that we'll be replacing in this series is the cooling system, the water pipes, and the intake manifold reseal. Now, some of you might be wondering, what the heck are all these parts and what are you replacing? Let me go through them with you. We have a brand new Nissan's radiator, we have an expansion tank, we have a new coolant bracket for the radiator, we have two new plastic water pipes that are going underneath the intake manifold, we have a new upper hose, we have a new lower hose, we have a new temp sensor, we have a new automatic trans thermostat, we have a new belt to go with an all-metal, overdriven, high-performance Stewart water pump with a metal pulley to go on top. We have a brand new Molly thermostat. We have all of the heater hoses and the coolant hoses to go for the rest of the car. And then over here, we have the intake manifold supplies. We have new O-rings for the dipstick tube, for the CCV. We have a new intake manifold gasket, throttle body gasket, idle air control valve boot. We also have these hoses that go to the sucking jet pump that connect the intake manifold to the brake booster. We also have a new check valve for that. We have a new cyclonic oil separator system, also known as the CCV or the breather. We have all the pipes for that. We have a Hanks CCV, and we have two new intake boots that go from the throttle body to the airbox. Now, there is a lot of parts and a lot of money sitting on this table. And none of this would have been possible without the help of today's sponsor, FCP Euro. I reached out to these guys a month ago and I pitched them the idea for this Fix and Give series and they were all on board. They said, Alec, let us know what you need. We got you covered, brother. Are you kidding me? A small-time creator like me chasing down a dream and a vision of wanting to give back to the BMW and the DIY community, and they are all on board? This is over $1,000 worth of parts, and they sent it out to me to take care of this car and to give back to the community. And I think that just speaks volumes about them as a brand. They are the best in the business. They've always been my go-to part supplier for the last few years since my viewer recommended them to me. I spent over $9,000 with these guys before I started collaborating with them. And they're still my go-to BMW part supplier. They're simply the best. They have the best warranty in the entire industry. They have some of the best pricing. They have the best customer support. They have the best technical support. And they have two warehouses across the US, Connecticut and Arizona. So if you're on the West Coast like me, or if you're on the East Coast, you're gonna get super fast shipping times anywhere in the US. Now, my favorite part about them is they have these kits that they put together for the E46 cooling system, for the breather system, like this Stewart water pump and this aftermarket metal pulley. They have OE, OEM, OEM Plus, and aftermarket options, and their catalog makes everything so easy. You don't have to dig through part schematics and find all the individual part numbers and copy and paste them into their catalog. Just put your vehicle details in on their website, fcpro.com, and just browse through some of the kits they have. They're absolutely amazing, and I've been using these kits on everything. So I just want to say a huge thank you to FCP Euro. Seriously, this means so much to me. Like, it's making me emotional. Like, I'm just a small-time creator trying to give back. You know, I want to be of service, and I want to leave this world a better place than I found it. FCP Euro wants to back me up on that? Like, are you kidding me? This would not be possible without them. If you guys could just throw them a thank you in the comments or head over to their website and check out their catalog, it would mean the absolute world to me. So thank you. Thank you so much. Put the game face on. It's time to get to work. Let's drain the cooling system on this thing and let's actually get started on some repairs, huh? First order of business, let's get this cooling fan and fan shroud out of here and start getting us some access. Get these connectors out, pull the push pin, T25 over here on the passenger. Don't pull this torque screw out of the passenger side. Fan clutch wrench, break that fan clutch loose. Next, let's pull the airbox. Let's get the belt out of the way so we can do the water pump in the future. Pop that cover off the tensioner. 8mm Allen socket. Now, these two plastic water pipes sit underneath the intake manifold. Super common coolant leak once cars hit 150K. It's the most labor intensive of this entire job. So I think let's get the intake manifold removed, give ourselves some more access, and then we'll go from there. Let's do the hard part first. Also, you see how this hose is starting to collapse? That's that sucking jet pump hose that goes from intake manifold to brake booster. So I'm glad we're replacing this thing too. Might be affecting our brakes. No repair instructions for me today. We're just gonna absolutely wing it. But if you ever need to get to the intake manifold or down back here, you can take these quarter turn push pins out, and this whole section, this little plastic wall right here can come out completely. It gives you a lot more room to get down back there. Come on, buddy, get out. There we go. So if you disconnect this brake booster hose, pull these looms out of here, this piece will come up and out. Like that. Let's get this DISA valve out of the way next. Someone's been in here before because it doesn't have the original T40s. They replaced them with 10 millimeters. Now when you pull these out, you always want to check the action of this plastic DISA valve blade. And a way to check if the diaphragm is still good, there's this little air port right here. And if you close it fully, put your finger over it, it should hold, but it's not. That diaphragm, I think, is torn. It should stay in a relatively closed position, but I think that diaphragm is leaking. So we're gonna have to replace this DISA valve in the near future. Let's pull this intake hose next. There's two hose clamps. One goes up here, the small one, to the idle air control valve. The big one goes down below to the throttle body. Now this intake hose is the most problematic vacuum leak on any M54. This little neck right here sits at such a severe angle it gets dry, brittle, and it cracks right here on the backside, causes lean condition. This one's still good, but we're gonna replace it anyways. Next, we'll pull this idle air control valve. There's a little bracket from the wiring harness that goes over here, and there's a little 10 millimeter nut that secures it. I like to just take that 10 mil off, and I just bend this tab down and out of the way. When I put it back in, I just bend it back up. And then two T40s to get this idle air control valve out. This one's already loose. Pop that connector off, then you just gotta muscle it out. There we go. Now when you remove these, you should always shake them and be able to get them. People like to call them thumper valves. That's because there's this little rotating assembly in it. If it doesn't thump like that, you can hose it out with brake cleaner and keep shaking it until it breaks loose. But it can cause a rough running condition. Next, I'm gonna follow this dipstick tube down, and there's a little 13 millimeter bolt that bolts the dipstick tube bracket to the engine mount bracket. And I'm gonna pull that 13 mil so we can rotate this dipstick tube out of the way. Now we can rotate it a little bit. While I got the 13 out, let's pull the hardware for the power steering bottle. So we can flop this out of the way, give ourselves some more room. Just fold it over like that. Now that's quite a bit of work to get these intake manifolds off on these M54s. N51s, N52s, N54s are way easier in my opinion. These M54s are kind of a pain, but it's doable. So let's get these O2 wires out of the way. They're factory zip tied to the intake manifold back here, so let's cut that zip tie. Then we can just flop these up behind the valve cover for now. With a pocket screwdriver, we can release this little breather hose right here. We're just slowly working our way through the system, trying to gain ourselves some more access. Unplug this Vanos solenoid because this wiring harness goes to the injectors. Then we'll unplug this connector here too. And what I'm gonna do next is start working on getting this injector harness out of here. It's connected to the main harness, so if we wanna get this entire intake manifold peeled out, we're gonna have to DC this harness from all the injectors. Take some needle nose and squeeze these O2 wire holders, push them out of this fuel rail, give ourselves some more access to get that harness out. Now this injector harness connects to these fuel injectors with these little metal clips, and you can take a pick tool and pick them open, but you can also just take a pry bar or a flathead and just lever the connectors off gently and get this entire harness to pop up. So that's what I'm gonna try to do next. This breather hose might get in the way, but I think we'll be able to do it. See how that one popped? You can just lever off of the fuel rail lightly. I got 4 of them. There's 5, there's 6. Now we got that whole harness loose. Gives us a lot more room to get down to the intake manifold bolts too. I have a bad habit of not disconnecting batteries too, so let's set a good example. Let's disconnect this battery. Pull the ground, set it aside. Now we can pop the cover off for this battery connection. This is where battery comes up to alternator, and 19 millimeter. You can bust this nut loose, unscrew that, and then get this battery cable out of the way. Now, if you don't disconnect the battery, you have live voltage all the way up here to this post. So it's always a good idea to disconnect the battery before you start playing with this wire and this connection. Yes, we can work on this little purge valve next. This little guy takes gasoline vapors from your fuel tank and re-injects them back into the intake. It's called the purge valve, or the fuel tank vent valve. So this hose connection on the bottom comes from the fuel tank, and this one on the back gets routed into the intake stream. So take a panel popper and slide this hose off on the back. And then this hose connection sucks. I might just leave it connected and flop this out of the way so I don't have to deal with it. It's just got this stupid connector that always fights me. I haven't pulled the intake manifold off of an M54 since, what, maybe my very first video, like 2 years ago, doing water pipes and intake manifold reseal on the car that we sold to Daniel for $6,000, the $500 daily driver series. Man, that car was so cherry. It turned out so good. All right, let's get the throttle body out of here next. The throttle body is interesting because there's this big harness bulkhead right here, and it actually bolts onto the throttle body. So to give myself a little bit more room, I like to take this 10 out. Then there's 4 10mm throttle body bolts. And then there's a 10mm nut to where this harness bulkhead bolts to the exterior of the throttle body. Okay, there's our 4 throttle body bolts. There's also a connector from the harness to the throttle body. There's the connector. If I feel down here, yep, I can feel the nut. There's a 10mm nut. And if you can see, this harness is attached to the throttle body right now. It's all one big piece. I need to get that 10mm nut off of the throttle body. There we go, got it. And now, this dipstick tube out of the way, we can pull this harness forward, slide the throttle body back. Holy cow, that thing looks clean. Look how clean that throttle body. It's mint. I don't even need to clean that thing. All right, gang, so this is what the intake manifold looks like without the throttle body in there. That's the little bracket that goes onto the throttle body, that little stud with the 10mm nut. This is that little bracket that goes up to the idle air control valve right there that I bent backwards. And now we're starting to get some access. If you look right there, that's a big 16mm nut. And that's on a bracket on the bottom of the intake manifold. So we have to get access down there, pull that 16mm nut, and then we have to pull all of the 11mm nuts that mount the intake manifold to the cylinder head. There's a lot of other stuff that we'll have to disconnect before we can get this intake manifold removed, but we're getting closer. Now this is that sucking jet pump vacuum line that goes from intake manifold to brake booster. And there's like a little T20 or T25 right there that it bolts up to with the bracket. And then if you see this small little vacuum line that goes to the F connector, it runs through that bracket right there, and it actually goes down to the fuel filter for the fuel pressure regulator. And so next we'll knock out that little Torx and get that bracket off. All right, now that sucking jet pump is loose, and I'll pull the vacuum line for the fuel pressure regulator out of that clip, because this sucking jet pump is gonna come out with the intake manifold. Another thing too is we can disconnect this alternator cable from this little bracket right here, because when we take the intake manifold out, it's gonna slide in this gap between the intake runner, and it's not gonna come out with it. It's gonna stay attached to the vehicle. It's gonna be hard to show you guys this one, but next I'm gonna take my 3/8 ratchet with a long extension and a wobble 16mm socket, and I'm gonna go down and bust that nut loose for the bracket on the bottom of the intake manifold. We're gonna start getting this thing loose and see what else is still attached. Oh yeah, look at that. Perfect. Next, I'm gonna take my 1/4" electric ratchet with a long extension and a magnetic deep 11mm socket. Having a magnetic socket for intake manifolds is so helpful, especially 11mm. All BMWs use 11mm for the intake manifold nuts and bolts. It doesn't matter if you drop them on the removal, but it's nice to not drop them, especially on the installation. We're gonna start just breaking all these nuts loose and pulling them out. Sometimes it helps to just really get in there. There's a lot of cars, customers' cars I've had to crawl around in the engine bay to make my life a little easier. To fix the car, you must become the car. So it goes 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, and 1. So some of them have 2 bolts. And this back one is pretty buried. You might have to use a wobble socket to get it. There's this hard, rigid fuel line. We're getting there, we're getting there. Let's give this thing a little wiggle. Oh, she's getting loose. There's just a lot of junk down here that we gotta get removed to get this thing to come out. Now, the main thing that's holding us up is the dipstick tube drain hose. The cyclonic oil separator, or the breather, which is located down here in the intake manifold, has a rubber hose that goes down to the dipstick. This one is actually brand new. I just replaced it for a video I was making for a brand, but that's gonna be one of our biggest holdups right now. Right now, I'm squeezing the connector on the bottom of the crankcase ventilation system, and I got it off. And it basically just takes all the oil that the breather collects from the intake system, and it drains it back down into the dipstick tube. All right, what else is holding up? There's another zip tie for the O2 sensor wires. Cut that, get those loose. Normally I can crack these up pretty easy, but let's see. Oh, it's held up on the bracket. down below. There we go. We got some movement out of it. So now we should be able to peel it up a little bit. I had to get it levered off of that bracket first because I was pulling the top, but the bottom was still hung up on that stud. So now we should be able to get a little bit more movement out of her. There we go. We can kind of peep underneath, see what's holding us up. A big part of it's going to be that fuel line on the back, but it's pretty dang loose now. There we go. That's what I wanted. We're getting there. Now we got a nice loose manifold. This power wire is gonna have to come through like so. Goes through the last port. Remember that for later. Now we can peel this sucker up. Yep, I see the fuel line. We got a broken vacuum line back there. That's why we bought lots of vacuum hose. Try to give you guys a good view of this process. Okay, so this harness, the fuel injector harness, is still held up. There's a connector right back here above the starter. Get that off. That gives us a little bit more room. Then we have the fuel line right here. Let's push that connector in. First, push the hose up. Come on, fuel line. I'm gonna get you. There we go. Fuel line's disconnected. There's another piece of the puzzle. And then the last thing is this wiring harness right here. Forgot about this guy, but it's zip tied here to the bottom of this bracket. I don't think I'm gonna zip tie it when I put it back together, but there's this little vacuum solenoid back here. So let's just cut that zip tie. All right, there. That's free. And then get gasoline to pour all over my hands. That's nice. Disconnect that guy. And then this connector's pinched behind the fuel line. The last thing holding us up is the vacuum line here, since it's still connected to the F connector, and the F connector is gonna come out with the sucking jet pump. Oh, there we go. Disconnected itself. Now we should be able to pull this entire intake manifold out. And check out all that room. Now, removal of that intake manifold can seem a little daunting, and it is a little bit challenging, but these wiring harnesses mold over time, and they have memory in the wires, and so they'll go back to where they're supposed to go back to. And as long as you got a code scanner to make sure that everything's plugged in when you're done with the job, just take your time with it, be organized with your parts and your hardware that gets removed. You'll be able to get it done, no problem. I haven't done one of these in a long time though. Now, before I do anything else, I want to inspect all of these intake ports and make sure no dust, debris, rocks, sand fell down into any of those ports. And what we're going to do next is we're going to take some rags. We're going to stuff them down there to make sure that nothing else falls in there while we're working on these water pipes. And these are the water pipes, my friend. The pain in the ass water pipes that always crack and break and turn into a 6 labor-hour job to get the intake manifold removed to replace these. So if you ever have these water pipes fail up here, that's why the job is so expensive. You got to remove the whole intake. Next, I'm going to thoroughly inspect all of these intake valves, make sure there's no debris in there. And I took a shop rag and I cut it into 6 pieces. And now I'm going to take this rag and stuff them down into each of these ports. So while we're working, nothing's going to fall down in. Rock plus intake valve plus cylinder equals bad. We'll double check them all when we're done. Okay. Also, let me correct myself by saying we didn't need to pull this harness off of the Vanos solenoids and the thermostat and all that jazz. Quite positive we could have left this all connected, but it did give us a little bit of extra slack. Peel this harness back, so we don't have to peel all this stuff off front. Now, before I take a break for some food and grill up some ribeyes, let's talk about this intake manifold and talk about the breather system, also known as the CCV, also known as the cyclonic oil separator. What it does is it takes vapors from the crankcase, from this hose from the valve cover right here. What it does is it separates the oil from those crankcase vapors. That oil then goes down here to the drain hose, which goes down to the dipstick tube and gets returned to the oil pan. And then the rest of the cleaned air from the cyclonic oil separator gets routed back up into the intake manifold and then is sent down into the combustion chamber to be burned off with the intake stream. Now, there's a diaphragm in here that can crack and tear and can affect the breather's ability to regulate that crankcase vacuum. So if you have excess crankcase vacuum, sometimes it's due to a failed breather. But this system is made of plastic. It cracks and fails all the time. The drain hoses to the dipstick tube can crack and fail. And this is a very large source of vacuum leaks on the M54, both the B25 and the B30. Some other information, this is where the throttle body bolts up to. This is where the idle air control valve, or that little thumper valve, connects down into. And this is where the DISA valve bolts up to. This is that sucking jet pump hose that I was telling you about. And it goes down underneath and then gets plugged in here down in the bottom of the intake manifold. If you're trying to replace this hose, it is almost impossible to do without removal of the intake manifold. And then this little hose here, this is where the evap vapors, the gasoline vapors from the fuel tank, go to the fuel tank vent valve or the purge valve, and then is injected into the intake stream right up here. Woo! Ribeye steaks. Gotta love them. Stage, come here. You wanna see the steaks? Let me show you. Is that scary? Steaks and sage, two of my favorite things. Barbecue a little scary for you? Yeah. Got me covered in hair. Up. Oh yeah. Next day, time to start making some progress on this cooling system. So let's dump the coolant out of it and get started on these water pipes. Start by pulling the drain petcock for the radiator. Now when we open the expansion tank cap, it'll start flowing. Now before we start pulling these water pipes out, I'm gonna remove this end of this Vanos oil line, pull this banjo bolt and flop it out of the way so it's not so hard and rigid and getting in the way of these water pipes down here. Actually, I'm gonna pull the bottom end because that's gonna make more sense. 19mm wrench, and let's stick a rag down there to catch any oil. Now this line runs from the Vanos hub up here at the cylinder head down to the back side of the oil filter housing. And there's hardly any oil in it, so we're good. Now anytime you remove a banjo bolt like this that has fluid passing through it, there's always two crush washers that sandwich whatever fitting it goes onto. When you take it out, you always want to make sure you have those two crush washers with you, that it's not stuck on the surface, and so you can match up the size out of your kit and get them replaced. So on the back side of this top water pipe, it goes to this heater hose, and that heater hose runs down to the bottom of the expansion tank. And on this one, it takes a sharp turn under the wiring harness here, and this hose runs to the bottom of the radiator coolant bracket. There's probably some coolant left in the system as well, so I'm gonna work on disconnecting these heater hoses from the water pipes. I also have a piece of cardboard and a catch pan underneath the vehicle in case it starts to get messy. Yep, there she goes. Right onto the cardboard. It's crazy that this coolant is purple. I've never seen purple coolant like this before. And since I'm replacing both the pipe and the hose, I'm just gonna pop these off with a flathead. If I can. You don't wanna come off, do you? Come on. There we go. Now there's some zip ties that fasten this wiring harness to these water pipes for the NOx sensors. So we'll cut these zip ties out. And now we can start pulling the hardware for the star of the show, which is these water pipes. 13mm bolts. One there for the top one here for the lower, another one down here. And then believe it or not, this lower one just slips in without hardware, and this upper one is held on with a little 10mm nut right there. So that's what we'll do next. Now we should be able to start removing these water pipes. We'll go with the top one first. I think the bottom might get in the way of the top. I'm not sure, I don't remember. I'm just gonna take a flathead screwdriver, get it behind that ear for the bracket on the pipe. Chances are it's gonna break when I remove it. They usually break. These plastic pipes just sit inside this cylinder head for 20 plus years, 150,000 miles, and the plastic gets so brittle. There you go. There's one. And you can see exactly what I mean by how they break. I mean, just look at the quality of that plastic that's on there. It is just completely smoked and looks so gnarly. That O-ring is just hanging on by a thread. Now we can pull this bottom one out. Just massage it. There we go. And again, same exact story. Look at the condition of that pipe. It is just rusty, broken, gnarly looking, and so tired. These have got to be original. They just look terrible. Now, if you look at that cylinder head port, we have pieces of plastic and O-rings still stuck in there. So we got to pop that out with a pick tool and clean it up. The other side looks a lot cleaner, but we're still gonna have to clean it up with the wire brush. For this next step, I just take a pick tool and I get in there and I try not to scrape the surface of the cylinder head, and you got to pick out all this old junk. So there's part of the O-ring. There's the O-ring, and that one is now clean of debris. And this one is clean of debris as well. It just has really, really gnarly ridges on it from those O-rings being frozen on there for years. So this kit is specifically for this job. I bought it for this job. It's just a brush set. We have brass, plastic, and steel. And I take one of these brush sets and I throw it on a drill, and I just go in here and I clean out these ports with this wire brush and get all that old O-ring and water pipe residue out of there. It's also a great time to do your oil filter housing while you have the intake manifold off. You have so much access to everything, but we're gonna save that for the oil leak video. Oh no, I broke it. Now, good preparation is the secret to success for this job. You gotta have these ports super clean and bitchin' before installation, because if these O-rings leak on you, you have so much work to do to get back in here and fix it, to replace those, and you don't wanna have to do that. There's still a lot of work I need to do on these. I had to bring the car down in height a little bit so I could work a little bit easier, but I'm gonna try to shove some Scotch-Brite on top of my brush. See if I can get this in there. I need something just a little bit more aggressive. You can scrub it by hand too, but power tools can make things faster. Kind of works. Yeah, there's so much residue still. Part of it looks clean. This is my least favorite part of working on cars, is spending 30 minutes trying to clean up old gasket surfaces. No real shortcut for this part, just time and patience. Dang, that sucker's headed, dude. We're gonna need a lot of lube to get that guy to seal up again. All right, that looks pretty clean. Top looked pretty good. That top left corner needs some love. A little bit more on the right side. Left side looks good. Okay, gotta keep going on the right. Yeah, it's just a little bit more on that upper right side. Just clean and check, clean and check, clean and check over and over and over and over and over again. Stick your finger down there, feel around, feel for any ridges. It's looking pretty good. It's like doing an oil pan reseal and having to clean all the gasket surfaces. It sucks, but you gotta take your time doing it and you gotta do it thoroughly. It's just that little piece of preparation that will make the installation and everything go so much smoother afterward. You don't wanna spend 4, 5, 6 hours getting in here to do these water pipes. Put it all back together, pressure test it, and it leaks. But the cool thing is you can actually pressure test this engine with the intake manifold removed, and I think that's what we're gonna do, and then put the intake manifold on it at the very end. Little brake cleaner on the Scotch-Brite. Okay, top's looking pretty bitchin'. Bottom needs some more love. We keep going. Yes, that is clean. Okay, give them a wipe out. Now I spent like 30 minutes cleaning these ports. So do what you gotta do on your own car. Get some brushes, get some Scotch-Brite, some brake clean, and really spend the time doing this. This is probably the most labor-intensive coolant repair besides the heater core that you could do on this car. That port's looking bitchin' and shiny. This port's looking bitchin' and shiny. All right, it's time to prep these water pipes. And if you watch this channel often, you know what's coming next. A nice healthy serving of Seal Glide on top of the O-rings. This is gonna help keep these O-rings lubricated while they're in there. It's gonna keep them moist, prevent them from drying out. It's also gonna help your O-rings from rolling during installation. A lot of times if you try to fit an O-ring into a surface, like what happened to me with the coolant flange hose on my N54, the O-ring will roll and then your O-ring is pretty much trashed because it's been pinched and it's now deformed. So nice healthy serving of lube. Seal Glide, which it's a silicone, and then I'm taking some of this PB Blaster silicone spray. I prefer 3M wet type silicone, but I've been using this stuff and it does just fine. As long as you got some sort of lubricant that is O-ring safe and it's not going to cause it to dry out over time. But you combine these two, it is just so incredibly slippery and all lubed up, and these O-rings aren't going to fight us one bit. Okay, time for installation. We'll do this bottom one first because the top one can go in and out without this bottom one getting in the way, but I don't think this bottom one can go in and out with the top installed. Get her lined up and just monitor those O-rings the entire time in. Boom! Popped in nice and bitchin'. Put this knock sensor on top. I'm gonna throw this 13mm bolt in there onto this bracket just to keep it in place. I'll snug it down once I'm done with everything. I like to keep both water pipes loose until I'm done with installation. Throw another 13 down here on the bottom bracket. I hope you guys have some good visibility. I'm trying really hard to make sure you guys got good camera angles for all these jobs, but this is a big job. This intake manifold and coolant pipe job should be a video in itself, but we're gonna do the whole cooling system. Hopefully you guys enjoy a nice long video, and if you are enjoying yourself, be sure to subscribe to the channel. You're gonna have to be subscribed in order to enter to win this car. And secondly, it just really supports me and helps keeping me doing this for a living so I can keep making you guys content and showing you how to fix these cars. Now, I don't remember if this power wire for the starter went above or below this wire, this hose. I think it goes below because it's sitting pretty firm on it right now. So instead of pulling this water pipe out, take a 17mm wrench, bust this nut loose off the back of the alternator. I think it's below. Pop that off. Let's route this below, see how that looks. Either way, I think it would be fine, but let's go below. That looks better. Yeah, I think it goes underneath it. And that's a big part of doing these larger jobs like that is, you know, if that wire was on top, is it gonna cause any problems? No, not really, but you wanna get it back to as close to the factory position as possible when you're doing all these things. Sometimes the routing might be a little different once you put the harness all back together, but is it gonna hurt the car? No, you're gonna be okay. Everything's always gonna be okay, guys. All right, time for the upper pipe. That popped in really nice. That's why we lube our O-rings and just check down in there, make sure nothing looks rolled. I'll pop it out one more time just to double check. Yeah, went in really nice, looks really good. Let's throw our 13 mil back here and keep this pipe in position. Put our little 10 millimeter on here and we're almost done with the water pipes. Let's snug this 10 up with just a little 1/4 inch ratchet. We don't need to go crazy tight, just nice and snug. No need for a torque spec, just do good and tight. And now we're gonna do the same thing with these 13 millimeters for the brackets. Doesn't have to be crazy tight. It's not doing anything in regards to sealing coolant. It's simply just keeping the pipe in place, so they just need to be snug. All right, and like that, water pipes are done. Let's put this Vanos oil line back into position now. This thing's gonna be replaced when we do the oil filter housing. I always replace the Vanos oil line when I reseal the housings, but until we do that, we're gonna throw on some new banjo bolts and reseal this thing. This oil filter housing's been leaking like crazy. See all this oil pooled up on the side of the block? That's all from this oil filter housing gasket. If you ever have an oil leak up here in this area, this is the only thing that will cause this oil leak on the driver's side. This thing's been leaking for a long time, so I'm excited to do it in the future. I'm gonna bust out my sealing washer set. If you guys are doing power steering hoses, oil Vanos lines, anything like that, having a crush washer set like this is so amazing. I'll try to link one in the description for you guys. I'm gonna go take my old crush washers, match them up, throw the new bolt on. Little pro tip for you when you're matching up crush washers, stack the 2 new ones up against the old ones. Look at the inside diameter and make sure nothing is hanging over. Look at the outside diameter and make sure that they're all lined up bitchin'. That's how you know it'll have the same inside and outside diameter and you can get the party started. Okay, now we can install our original banjo bolt with new crush washers and we're gonna sandwich this hose, this oil Vanos line with crush washers on both sides. Then bring it down, get it started with our fingies, get that thing snug. And then another tip is when you're torquing down this oil Vanos line, when you're going to the right, it's gonna twist this hose to the right. Same with power steering hoses. So I just like to take my other hand and hold the Vanos line in position for where I want it and apply opposite force to the direction of which I'm turning the wrench. And you wanna go decently tight so you can get those crush washers to seal. You don't wanna strip it out because then you need a new oil filter housing, but nice and tight, make sure it's cleared here on the water pipe and it's not touching on the cylinder head up here by the Vanos hub. All right, next we're gonna start attaching the coolant hoses to these water pipes. I was mistaken earlier, guys. I told you that the coolant hose back here runs down to the coolant expansion bracket on the radiator, but it does not. It runs from this water pipe down over here to this little guy right here. Now, from what my shop foreman told me many years ago, this is like a mini auxiliary water pump. And what it does is it pulses and it opens and it pulses fast or pulses slow. And what it does is it regulates the coolant flow to the heater core. And it has a fail-safe in the open position. That way, if you're stuck in the cold and you need heater to survive, that your heater will still work. But that's the knowledge that I have on this little component. So this end here to the water pipe is free. So now we're just simply gonna pop it out of its bracket. Whoop, there goes the bracket. Start getting access. Pop this guy out and it looks like we just have a little 6 millimeter hose clamp connection here at this little auxiliary water pump. I love these ratcheting screwdrivers with the 6 millimeter socket for taking off hose clamps. It is so much faster and so much more effective than a flathead screwdriver. So if you guys don't have one of these, I'll link one in the description for you. It's a great tool to pick up, and having a wobble 6 millimeter on it just makes your life so much easier for different hose clamp connections. Okay, first coolant hose removed, making progress. And of course we got to lube up our connections. So we'll take some Sil Glide, smear a little Sil Glide on the inside of this hose connection. Also, we're gonna put a little bit on the plastic water pipe back here. Just give it a nice opportunity to seal, keep it moist over time. Little silicone spray. Wipe that around, little silicone spray in here. Is it overkill? Maybe. Has it always done me well and worked well? Yes. I've always had good success with coolant hoses. It's also a good idea to keep the original hose clamps for these parts because these German-made BMW hose clamps are far superior than poor quality Chinese ones. And you can really tighten them up without them stripping out, like cheap O'Reilly or AutoZone hose clamps. German-made hose clamps are the best. At the old shop I worked at, we would buy boxes of German-made clamps. The worm gears are just so much stronger and so much more stout. So I like to reuse them. I'll replace them if I have to, but if they strip, if I go to try to get it tight like that and it pops, but that thing is rammed down tight and that is solid. Pull this fuel line back up. Okay, next up is the other water pipe hose, and this one is the one that actually goes down to the bottom of the expansion tank and that coolant radiator bracket. I'm not gonna do both sides right now, but what I am gonna do is match it up to the new hose. Same story as always. Little schmear of lube inside there on the the O-ring, take any leftovers, wipe it on that water pipe, silicone spray on the lube, silicone spray on water pipe. And I'm gonna route this thing next to it. I'm not gonna disconnect the other hose and do the entire replacement now, but once we have access down to that stuff and we start DCing it, we won't have to disconnect the hose twice. It'll just be right there, brand new, bitchin' and ready to go. Okay, boom, second hose is on, and that concludes the water pipes and the connecting hoses. I believe the kit that I got includes every single hose for the entire car. So I think next we're gonna start knocking out these heater hoses. From here, this one goes to the auxiliary pump, the other one goes to the expansion tank. Now I like to do these one at a time, that way you don't mix up the order of which hose goes where. You can take one off, you can match it up with the new hoses that you have in your kit, and you can go through and systematically do it. If you were to just rip all these hoses out, like yeah, you could, but you'll probably have a hard time figuring out which hose goes where. And this just makes life a little bit easier. You can just methodically go through and do one by one. That's the way I like to do it. Okay, there's the right heater hose. Let's go match this up. Swap the old hardware over to the new hose. Now I've been working on some merch designs, and I'm just curious, if I made some merch, it's not gonna have anything to do with the giveaway series, but it'll give you guys an opportunity to pick up some cool designs and support the brand. Would you guys be interested? I've been a little hesitant in the past because I just didn't know if it would be popular or not, but if you guys would like to support the channel with some merch sales, I'm coming out with a really cool like American traditional design that has sage on it with a wrench and a little Day Off DIY logo, and I think it's looking pretty sick, kind of like an old Sailor Jerry tattoo style. American traditional tattoo style. Let me know in the comments if that's something you guys are interested in. I think it would be hilarious to make one about clean mating surface or about properly lubing O-rings and stuff, you know? I feel like we could make some pretty cool niche BMW DIY merch. Let me know in the comments. If I get some good feedback from you guys, I'll step on the accelerator for the designs, and I'll get cracking on it and get some stuff made. I want to make sure it's going to be high quality, and I think it would also be cool to just do like a limited edition, like limited batch numbers, you know, only do 100 shirts and just kind of do limited edition numbers. You know, you're only able to get that shirt design that one time, and that way it'll just make it a little bit more special, a little bit more collectible. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. And how I know if hose clamps are tight, these worm gears, is once I get it snug, I try to push down on the head of the clamp with my thumb, and if I can spin it, it's too loose. But if it's nice and tight, I know, okay, I got it nice and snug. That hose isn't going anywhere. Put this hose back in its holder. Okay, now we got one more heater hose to do. Okay, and this one goes from heater core to expansion tank. I'm gonna go down here and pop this hose connection off the bottom of the expansion tank, lever it off with the little pry bar. This thing's getting new expansion tank, new thermostat, new hoses, an overdriven high performance Stewart water pump. Super stoked that FC Puro was willing to send me that high performance pump. I wanna see how it performs. And you know, a lot of people talk about the shortcomings of the factory water pump design and the plastic pulley that's on it. So I'm excited. Gotta love factory German clamps. They are so good. Okay, and then this hose clips in. Goes down there. And this will just rest on the expansion tank, and we don't need to fully attach it yet. We'll do that later. And we are in really good shape. This thing is coming along. Here's a look at all the pipes we've replaced so far. We have our 2 water pipes, we have our heater hoses, and we have the other hose that attaches to the water pipe. And we only have 2 hoses left, an upper and a lower. We got the auto trans thermostat, coolant temp sensor, drain petcock for the new radiator, thermostat, Stewart water pump, new Rhine, metal pulley, and belt. So let's get down into the front of the engine, start doing these hoses, water pump, thermostat, all that good stuff. All right, let's move to the thermostat next. It's a little hard to give you guys good visibility down here on the front end of the engine, but I'm gonna do my best. This thermostat has 3 bolts. It has a 13mm up here that goes through this little ear off of this little hook duty hicker right here, and then a 10mm, a 10mm, and a 10mm. But before we take those out, we're gonna have to disconnect these coolant hoses. So let's make sure that our drain pan is in position in case we lose any coolant off the front side of the engine. And let's start knocking these hoses out. Pull the upper, pull the clip for the lower. And for these, especially if I'm replacing them, I'll just lever off of this banjo bolt right here. Make it a little easier to pop this hose off. And while we're here, I might as well just disconnect the entire thing. So let's stick this slide up here and let's pull this off, this little coolant float plate thing. Pop this clip up for the expansion tank, this clip for the radiator, and same story. I like to just lever it off like that. Come down here off the core support, lever it off like that, and boom, we got our upper hose removed. Add that to the graveyard of hoses. And same story for the lower. Reach down, pop the connector off for that lower temp sensor, get a pocket screwdriver in there, lift up that clip on the radiator. And then for this one, I like to just take a pry bar, a flathead screwdriver, put it on the lip of that hose there, and just give it a bop, comes right off. Down here, just give it a little wiggle up and down. Please don't dump coolant on my floor. Come on, get off of there. You want to, you're halfway. Come on, get off, get out, get out. If it does fight you and you're replacing the radiator, or if you're not replacing the radiator, take a pry bar, lever off of this edge of the radiator right there, grab a purchase point on that outside hose connection, and you can get it off. Now we can go back to the thermostat, 13mm bolt here, and 3/10s. One there at the top, one on the bottom left, one on the bottom right. And then take the thermostat assembly, rotate it clockwise to get it from underneath this little ear right here. And there you go. We have our thermostat removed. This is a Waller made in Germany. Not sure how old it is, but we're replacing it anyways. The gasket looks pretty good. Gasket surface on the cylinder head look decent. No issues there. And I'm gonna keep the thermostat out until I finish the water pump. It's gonna give me a little bit more room to get this pulley off. Oh, you know what? Dude, this pulley's broken. Holy cow. Good thing we're replacing it with a metal one. I never noticed that on the inspection. If you have an electric ratchet and you can dump the clutch on it, it'll get these bolts out pretty good. I just hold the pulley with my hand, run the ratchet, and then shove it on the bolt. And check out this pulley, dude. It's completely broken. Look at that. I never even noticed that. That would chew up the belt, honestly. It's got sharp edges. No good. Okay, now we can start pulling the 4 nuts for the water pump. And I'm about to make a short on this real quick, but an awesome pro tip for you guys, you M54 owners. If you take 2 10mm thermostat bolts and thread them into these open ports on the side of the water pump, you can thread those bolts in and it'll push against the block and it'll remove the water pump for you. It's way easier than trying to wail on this thing and wiggling it up and down while you're pulling it out. There's these 2 threaded ports right here on the sides of the water pump. You just thread those in and it'll push the water pump out for you really easy. It's exactly what they're designed to do. It's way easier than wailing up and down on this thing and trying to pull it out. I hope that helps. I threaded those bolts in and the thing just came out like butter. Didn't have to wail on it at all, didn't have to fight it. And yeah, it looks like that was the source of our leak. Let me show you up close. So to my knowledge, on the bottom of most BMW water pumps, they have this little port. And what I've been told is that's the weep hole. That's what allows coolant to bypass when the bearing starts to fail. And we were just getting a slight little trickle down onto the crank pulley from this water pump. Still feels relatively tight, but I believe that was the source of our coolant leak from our diagnosis in videos past. So thing came out super easy. Time to clean up the surfaces and put in our new Stewart high performance water pump, baby. Let's go. The next step is getting some Scotch-Brite down into that port on the block and cleaning up any O-ring material, and also taking some Scotch-Brite and cleaning up this thermostat housing surface on the cylinder head. Telling you guys, as a BMW mechanic, Scotch-Brite is going to be your best friend. I use it for everything. Prepping O-ring surfaces, cleaning oil pan surfaces, oil filter housings, valve covers, everything gets a light scrubbing with Scotch-Brite. It's not too abrasive to where it'll dig in and gouge the material, but it's abrasive enough to where you can really clean up surfaces and make them look really nice again. Now that I've cleaned it up, we'll go in there with an inspection mirror, make sure it's looking nice and clean for that new O-ring. Another thing I like to do is I look at the old part, and this O-ring is really close to the mating surface. So that means I don't need to clean like an inch deep in there. In reality, I need to clean this lip right here on the front, and that still has a little bit of sign of O-ring material. So I'm gonna go through and scrub it a little bit more. We got to use our noggins when we're working on these cars, you know? You got to think about where the parts are going to be mating up to each other, what the important parts of it are, where the O-ring's going to be seating, because you could be cleaning way back here for 30 minutes trying to get it all bitching. But in reality, you're just doing nothing. You're cleaning for no reason. Okay, looking good. Rag. Brake cleaner, wipe it out. Now, before we put this new high-performance Stewart water pump in there, let's just look at the visual differences. First off, plastic impeller, metal impeller, and this thing is, I don't know if it's between the pulley or the impeller size on the back, but this is overdriven, so it actually spins like 20 to 30% faster. So it increases coolant flow inside the engine and just allows the engine to stay a little bit down in temperature, reduce the risk of overheating if you're really driving and beating on the thing. So I've never installed a water pump like like this before. It's a lot heavier. I'm really excited to try it. Let's put it in. You guys know what's coming next. I shouldn't even have to tell you. You should know exactly what I'm gonna be doing next. I'm not even gonna say it. I'm just gonna do it. Okay, Stewart water pump going in. All right, O-ring went in nice, it didn't roll. Boom, we like that. Now this water pump came with hardware, but it looks like it's bolts and washers for the pulley, so we'll hold on to those for a sec. And we will install the original 10mm nuts that came off the original pump. And for this, I'm just gonna use a little baby 1/4" ratchet and snug them up by hand, equal and opposite. Doesn't need to be crazy tight, just needs to be snug. If you're using a small ratchet like this, you're not gonna run the risk of over torquing it and snapping off studs that go into the block. All right, now this water pump came with a new belt. I don't know the brand. Let me check on the brand real quick. It is a Mitsubishi? Mitsubishi? Is that like a knockoff Mitsubishi? I don't know. Anyways, I don't think I'm gonna do it yet. Instead, I think I'm gonna reach out to the boys at FCP Euro and tell them I wanna refresh the entire serpentine assembly. I'd like to do a new tensioner, cause, oh yeah, she's noisy. Let me give you guys a listen. Yeah, she's got some noise to it. That idler's got some noise, or the tensioner pulley's got some noise. The idler pulley's got some noise. So I'm gonna hold off for now. We'll go back in here. We'll do both belts and we'll do idler, we'll do tensioner, and we'll do the AC tensioner and get this all refreshed up. I'm not trying to cut any corners, and we'll do it properly later on. And my next step is gonna be getting this new metal water pump pulley on there. It fit perfect, and we'll bust out our new hardware kit. And it'll be tough to get the bolts tight while the serpentine belt isn't on there, because we kind of have to like hold the pulley with our other hand while we tighten it. So we'll snug this pulley up after I put the serpentine belt back on, because the serpentine belt will hold this pulley in position and I won't have to provide opposite force to get these to snug up. I am very excited about this though. Like this metal pulley look bitchin', and this cooling system is going to be so good when we're done with it. Like, we've literally done everything but the heater core. We still have to do radiator, expansion tank, auto trans thermostat, bracket. Is this not oriented correctly? It's always my mirror. Why am I always losing my mirror? Why? Yeah, I have it like 90 degrees off or something. That ain't gonna work. Nuh-uh. This pulley and the threaded holes on the water pump are not symmetrical. So there's only one way it really goes on. There we go. And then I just like to rotate it with the bolt in there until I find the threads. And if all four go in, you're in the right position. You know, besides the water pipe and removing the intake manifold on this car, the cooling system is very easy to work on. It's considered gravy, as technicians would say. Pulling the intake manifold and doing the water pipes is kind of a pain in the ass. It's even for a tech, it's gonna be a 5-hour job, and a shop's probably gonna charge you 5-6 hours to remove the intake manifold and do the water pipes. But if you're in there, you might as well go all out. Do the heater hoses while you have good access. Replace the CCV or the cyclonic oil separator on the intake manifold, which we'll do in a little bit, and just do everything. Do everything that it's gonna need. All right, I'm just gonna snug these up with the electric ratchet. And honestly, that's enough torque, but we'll still snug them down further once we put the belt back on. And honestly, we can put the belt back on right now, so might as well just do it right now. So I don't forget. See if you can remember how this belt gets routed. It's also a great time to make sure that this Rhine water pump pulley looks correct and that it is in line with all the other pulleys, right? Because there could be a slight manufacturing difference to where it's a little bit wider, a little bit longer, and it can throw off the angle of your belt while it's under rotation, cause more issues. It's always good to double check belt routing. Make sure it's smooth on all the ridges, on all the grooves, all that good stuff. I talk about it all the time. Okay. So you take this loop between the water pump and the crank pulley, bring that over to the tensioner, slide your 8mm Allen socket in there. Come on now. Okay, flush on the water pump, flush on the crank pulley, flush on power steering, flush on alternator, flush on idler, flush on tensioner. We're good. Next step, just get a little bit bigger 1/4" ratchet. Yeah, those are nice and tight. Ain't going nowhere. Next step is gonna be cleaning up this thermostat mating assembly. Little brake cleaner on some Scotch-Brite, and just get to scrubbing. Get all that old gasket material off the mating surface. Also, today I hit 50,000 subscribers on YouTube this morning, and Gerardo texted me and congratulated me. So I just want to say a big thank you to all of you guys out there. What have we been doing this for? A little over 2 years now, and we hit 50K, and I just hit 250K on Instagram. My Instagram used to have like no followers, man. And then I started this daily BMW tip series, and we just blew up. I had no idea. So many many people were interested in this type of content and so many people wanted to watch me make videos. Like, I still have to pinch myself and like, really? There's people that want to listen to me talk and watch me do stuff on cars? It still boggles my mind. I guess that's kind of like a, you know, imposter syndrome a little bit. I don't really know the definition of it, but thank you for all your guys' support. And if you found me from Instagram and came over to the YouTube channel, drop a comment down below and let me know. That way I know some peeps are coming over from Instagram, because that's pretty cool. I am just very blessed, and it's all thanks to you guys. That's why I'm trying to fix this car up and give back to you guys, because you guys deserve it. You guys are the ones that got me to this point, and I want to do everything I can to give back to the community that made this all possible. Looking pretty good. See that beautiful shiny finish? We have a little bit of pitting down here in the bottom. That's okay. Okay, looking good. Again, little brake cleaner on the rag. Get any oils off that surface. Wipe off any little Scotch-Brite fibers that may have fallen onto the mating surface. We have a small little spot that's pitting down here on the bottom, but it should be okay. And now it's time to put the water pump in. I'm actually gonna take a small touch of Seal Glide and just barely glaze this gasket, because it should just allow it to stay a little bit more moist over time. And you also have to kind of quarter turn this thermostat to get it to the installation position, and this is just going to help that gasket glide into position. You can do it dry. I'm going to put just a touch of lube. This Seal Glide does not prevent sealing. If anything, I believe it helps. So now we'll put the thermostat in and then quarter turn it to the left till I get that big 13 lined up. I like to do this one first. Now we can put in the rest of the thermostat bolts, all these 10 millimeters. And you might have to wiggle it a little bit to get the threads to line up. But that's okay. Everything is okay, guys. No matter how bad your car is, no matter how bad life gets, everything will always be okay. In the end, we will all be okay. All right, I'm gonna gently run these down with the ratchet. Definitely wanna go equal and opposite. Okay, now I'm just gonna snug them up with the 1/4 inch ratchet. The reason why I'm not torquing this to spec is because I've installed these for years without torquing them to spec. You just gotta go good and tight, just, you know, to the point to where if you had a ratchet this long, a small 1/4 inch ratchet, right? And you're able to tighten it with one finger, that's nice and snug. Just one finger torque spec. And then snug up our 13, nice and snug. Bitchin'. Let's get this wiring harness back in place, because when we put that lower hose back on, we're not gonna be able to get this thing routed. It's kind of wedged behind the thermostat here. I don't want to make that mistake. So let's fully connect this harness back up. Plug in exhaust Vanos solenoid and plug in this cam sensor. All right, she is coming along. We're making progress. We're making progress. Time for expansion tank and radiator. You guys have barely even seen any Sage this video. Come here, little puppy. You just covered me in hair, dude. Give me a flop. Give me a flop. Almost. Oh, there we go. There's the flop. Oh, yeah. I'm saying hello from everybody on YouTube. From John and from Daster Disaster and Rob's Weekend Garage and Frankie and Mitchell and all the YouTube homies. They all say hello. And they all tell me to give you pets for them. So let's give you some pets and cover myself in your little Sage hair. Oh yeah, oh yeah. I'm covered, I'm covered. Time to replace, or at least time to remove the expansion tank. Now, if you're doing your expansion tank on an automatic transmission M54, you have to buy this piece. This is the automatic transmission thermostat. It does not exist on the manuals, but it does on the automatic trans, because this car has an automatic transmission cooler that is mounted to the bottom of the radiator coolant plate. And this little piece always comes apart when you pop these expansion tanks up. So I'm gonna list all of the parts that I used on this entire job in the description, and it's gonna be links of all the different FCP Euro parts. And a lot of the kits don't come with this. So if you buy like the E46 cooling kit on their website, you need to buy this too, because when you pop this up, it's gonna come apart. I guarantee it. Watch it not come apart when I take this one out. Wouldn't be surprised. Okay, so hoses are disconnected. This hose up here. There's a little clip down here, just like the radiator clips. It's got a little tab on it. We're gonna take that, pop that out. Then we're gonna take the expansion tank cap. I'm gonna thread that back in on the top. Then I'm gonna take a pry bar. I'm gonna lever off the core support here, get underneath the radiator cap, expansion tank cap, pry upwards. Boom, there we go. Come on out, little buddy. And then we disconnect the float and our expansion tank is removed. There's the tab I was talking about. Pop that into the open position, put the cap on, lever that sucker out. That is the automatic transmission thermostat. It's actually got like some goo on it. I don't know what that is. Maybe someone put stop leak in there before, but of course this one didn't come apart. There it did. Yep, there's your proof, guys. You always gotta replace those if you're gonna reuse the original radiator and coolant bracket. They come apart and they fail when you try to remove them and reinstall them. Just buy new, please. The next step is we need to disconnect this automatic transmission thermostat from this bracket that goes onto the radiator. So we're gonna take this tab, we're gonna lift it up just like the expansion tank, and then just stick a pry bar or flathead screwdriver in there and lever it off of this coolant bracket, just like that. We're just disconnecting the cooling system side of it. I don't believe we're gonna lose any transmission fluid. There we go. That's loose right into the bucket. Beautiful. Yup. One more hose to DC that goes to the bottom of this coolant bracket. Lift up that tab right there. And this is the one that we already replaced. We just haven't installed. For a second, I was like, oh, is there a hose we didn't do? But no, we already did it. Don't come off like that. Come on out. Be nice. Be nice to me. Get off. Come on now. Get off of there. This sucker's probably never been replaced in the entire life of this car. Oh, I hit the cap off idler. I need to put that back on. You're on. Okay, come on, hose. Boy, you're just on there, aren't you? Ah, there we go. Get off, you dirty girl. Get off of there. Get off. Okay, now we can start getting this radiator out of here. So really, we only have one screw to remove to get this radiator out, because the other screw that holds it in is this really long Torx that goes through the fan shroud. So really, we should only just have one more T25 over here, and this sucker should come on out. Oh, so much debris. Ta-da! There is, looks to be original 140K radiator. I like to just try to drain them. God, there's so much debris. Let's try this side. Yeah, there's some flake in here, like someone put some stop leak in it, but not anymore. All right, that should be enough for now. Radiator, remove! Before I move on, I'm just gonna take a little brush and clean up this condenser. Condenser? I always get condenser and evaporator mixed up. Does anybody do that too? Oh my gosh, there's so much debris, so much leaf litter and stuff in here. It's getting in all my coolant. Just cleaning up these surfaces that the radiator sits on. There's these little rubber schnubbers in there, and there's just a bunch of sand and junk built up on it. Okay, let's prep the new radiator. Now, before we put this new radiator together, look at this auto trans thermostat, and look at this goo and gel that's built up. That's that metallic-y stop leak stuff we saw in the system. It almost is building up like a wet toilet paper type consistency. Just see how it's gelling up in there? Like, that could totally block that trans thermostat. So stop leak is never a good idea. It is never a good idea. Never use head gasket fix in a can, and never use radiator stop leak, because it'll cause more problems than it will do good. Pressure test, repair the leak, pressure test again, and keep going, because that stuff does not look good. All right, now let's talk about these radiators and put this new one together. You can reuse these coolant plates, but in this case, where I'm trying to do it all really, really nice, I chose to buy a brand new one. So I'm just gonna lay this down on its back. We have our new expansion tank there. Now basically, this coolant bracket is obsolete on a manual transmission, but on an automatic transmission, it takes coolant flow from right here at the bottom port of the radiator, and it flows it into these ports, which also made into the expansion tank, and these go to the auto trans thermostat. And so you have a new O-ring on the back here. It's always good to make sure that there's a new O-ring. Some radiators have a plugged drain port. This one, I'm gonna double check it with a screwdriver and see if it's removable. Yeah, this new radiator came with a bag of O-rings, and it also came with this drain petcock. Now I believe that this one is fixed and probably doesn't get removed, and it came with one that can be removed. So let's throw a screwdriver on this real quick and see if it backs out. Personally, I like it serviceable. That way I can, oh yeah, this one removes. So I don't know why it came with an extra, but it was also in the open position, which is a little scary. This thing goes in and hits this slot right here, and then you quarter turn it and lock it with this nut. I was able to do it with the flathead using the interior piece, but that was in the open position. So if this system built up pressure, it could have possibly popped that drain petcock out. That would have been bad news bears. Okay, what's first? First is gonna be disassembling this old one, because I want the hardware off of this coolant bracket. There's a Torx screw here and a Torx screw here that hold it on. Then we got this lower plastic piece that clips onto the bottom of the radiator. We need to swap that over to the new one as well. So let's put it this way, put you on top of there, and then let's set this new one next to it. We're gonna be gentle so we don't hurt it on the ground. So what we'll do next should be a T25. Pull that screw, pull this one, and then this bracket should come. Oh, you know what? This part is supposed to come off first, so let's do that. What I do here is take a pocket screwdriver, just lever in. There's these little clips along the radiator. Just lever those clips out, work your way down, lever it out, lever it out. Knock all that dirt out of there. Reinstall over here. slide the back in and push the front in. I don't think it should impede in our ability to get this one out. And then here, all we have to do is just lever up in this corner, get that O-ring to pop out, and then this slides up and out. So now you know the removal process if you're gonna reuse it on yours. We'll just compare side by side, make sure everything looks good, which it does. Next step, a little bit of seal glide on this O-ring down here for this coolant bracket. Lube that up, lube up this port, and then this goes down. That O-ring lines up there. You need to get this top hooked on first. Yeah, like that. That goes down, that top goes over like that. These O-rings on here sit surprisingly shallow. There's this torque screw that holds them in, but they're really not held in by much. I'm surprised they don't leak more often than they do, but they actually hold pressure quite well. And for the installation, we're going to use a small 1/4 inch ratchet with some more finesse so we don't over torque it, strip out our new radiator, snug that down. Then our other screw goes over here. Bitchin'. And while we're here, I'm gonna take some lube and hit this port. This one actually seals and flows. Hit this expansion tank port, hit the upper, and hit the lower. And there's another piece I forgot about. There's this little guy right here. This is the other component to the, I don't really like the look of you. I think I might have to replace you in the future. We'll pressure test it and we'll monitor it, but there's this little piece here that has to come out. It slides up and out like that, but I don't like this fuzziness, and we'll run it because I don't have the part right now. It's gonna be multiple days to get it, and I wanna pressure test this thing and see what happens. We'll have to keep a close eye on this piece. And then this guy slides down into this bracket here, like that. So we have one side for the trans thermostat, the other side for the trans thermostat. Then we got some heater hose connections here. Hopefully it'll be okay. We'll see. The pressure test will tell us. And with that, this radiator is ready to go in. We'll spray those later. Okie dokie. Time for radiator installation. Drop this sucker in. Now the main tip for installation of these radiators is just to look down on the sides. There's some tabs on the radiator that slide into these little slots. And if you're fully seated, it'll look nice and flush, and the hardware in the top corners should line up nicely, and it should be nice and vertically flat. You don't want the bottom kicking out and the top being up. This side looks really good. This side looks good. Put our T25 back in the corner, cure the radiator. Get this old hose out of there. And the next step is lubing up the O-rings on this auto trans thermostat. And there's a little notch on it right here. There's a little notch and there's a little hole for it on this coolant bracket. Once you get it lined up, you need to get that notch in place and push it down. That's it. That's all you gotta do. Okay, what's next? Let's put this hose on. Then let's get our auto trans thermostat. Ooh, we need to wipe those ports. I wonder. No, this bag of O-rings that came with the Nissan's radiator, I was hoping maybe that 2 of them would be the right size for that trans thermostat, but it's not. So these rarely ever leak. We're just gonna wipe them down with the rag, rehydrate them with some Seal Glide. I'm sure they'll be just, if they did leak, it'll be a relatively easy repair. Lube them up. You guys see the trend here with the Seal Glide and the lube? I lube everything. Okay, trans thermostat's back in. It's time to drop this expansion tank down. Yep, I think so. A lot of lube. Lube this O-ring, lube this one, lube this one. Take our coolant level float sensor, plug that guy back in, and this doesn't have a clip on it. So we need to take the clip from the old expansion tank, put it in the closed position. There's a little notch. There's a little hook right here on the back of the expansion tank. It hooks into this bracket. So once you get it down, keep the expansion tank flush to the bracket and then send it home. No, not yet. No, that ain't it. There we go. Now that clip is in. Should be able to install it in the clip's closed position. Nope. Come on. Lock in there. Come on. We got a nice Nissan's expansion tank. Okay, I think that's on. It doesn't want to lift. Clip feels good. Where's my mirror? It's always my mirror. Yeah, it's decent. Okay, we'll see when the pressure test comes. Connect our new hose. Okay, and now it's time for upper and lower radiator hose. No surprise, more lube. Every hose connection I'm installing, I'm lubricating, in case you guys haven't picked that up yet. Okay, so this is the lower, that's our upper. Also, I love hearing about what countries you guys are from. So it'd be cool if you'd like, drop a comment and let me know what country you're tuning in from, because it is just absolutely fascinating to me that we have viewers from around the world. Blows my mind every time I see it. So it'd be cool to like actually see, like drop a comment and let me know. I think think that is just so cool. Hopefully in the future, when I do some international travel, I'm gonna hit you guys up. Say, hey, I'm going to South Africa next week. Hey, I'm going to Spain in a month. Where's our viewers in Spain? We can go out and grab a beer. All right, upper installation time. Line it up, click her in. Radiator and expansion tank. Radiator first, expansion tank. Go down, clip. Yep, looking good. Clipped into place. Put our new temp sensor in for the lower. Clip this guy in. Chapa! Lubed up, radiator's lubed. Plug them in. Lower hose going on, clipped. Lower hose to thermostat, clipped. Boom! Guys, the cooling system is now complete. That's all of the cooling system components. So next, I'm gonna put some coolant in this thing, pressure test it, see if we got any leaks. Might as well do it while we have access to everything, right? Why put the intake manifold back on and we discover that the heater hose in the back is leaking, you know? It's like, oh my gosh, shoot myself at that point, you know what I mean? So next step, expansion tank cap is off, flathead screwdriver, pull our bleeder screw, and before we get started, I gotta make some coolant. All right, we got some 50/50 Xerox G48 coolant. We're gonna fill this up until we get a nice steady flow out of that bleeder screw. Almost 1 gallon in. I can hear coolant moving in the system, but it's not like leaking. Time for the 2nd gallon. Yeah, this Xerox stuff comes full strength, so it's always good to hold on to an old coolant jug so you can pre-mix it, make it 50/50. There she blows. That's what we're looking for. A little bit more. Good enough for a pressure test. Throw our screw back down. Okay, y'all know what's next if you watch the channel. And if you guys are doing coolant repair and not pressure testing before and after your repairs, shame on you. Buy a pressure tester. They're so cheap, but don't just spitball it on cooling system repairs. Pressure test, diagnose the leak, repair it, pressure test afterward. I literally disconnected that's why we pressure test, guys. We got a leak at like 8 PSI. No! Where are you leaking at? Let me show you. I think it's leaking from that drain petcock right there. Yep, so let's put the car up in the air a little bit, give myself some room, and we're gonna have to pull that thing out, lose a bunch of coolant, reinstall that other drain petcock fitting, see if it holds. That's why we pressure test, guys. Put this all back together, go run it. You got a leak at your brand new radiator. That's a brand new drain petcock too. And it was in the open position. Recorder turned it to the right, and we got it to lock. It still leaked. Maybe that's why they include 2. I don't know, but when you're working on cars, unexpected things are always going to happen. Problems are always going to come up. You cannot let it be the end of the world. You can't let it defeat you. You just simply gotta figure out what's going on and adapt and overcome. You gotta stay strong and just figure it out. Okay, I released the pressure out of the cooling system. I pre-lubed my new drain petcock fitting. This might get a little ugly and messy, but I'm gonna quarter turn this thing to the open position. Take my Knipex pliers. Can't see. Now I need to line this notch up, push it up, and now I need to quarter turn it and lock it in place. Okay, and my drain petcock, I already snugged up in there, but I'll double check it with the big flathead so I don't strip it. Give it a little quarter turn. She's tight. All right, we didn't lose too much coolant. That wasn't too bad. Now I'm not positive, but this drain petcock that came in the radiator almost looks smaller than the one I just installed. I'm not gonna pull it back out to recheck it, but maybe one of you guys has some knowledge out there. Maybe this was for manual trans and I had to put in the auto trans. I don't know. Either way, what we're gonna do, pull our fittings back off because I'm gonna bleed it again, crack our screw, top it off a little more, try to work those air bubbles out of the system. I can hear the air hissing out of that screw. And there we go. Coolant level's high, but that's okay. When we pressure test it, it's gonna force some of that coolant down. There's still some air in the system. It's not perfect, but we bleed it later on when we have the car running. Let's throw our adapter back on. Cooling system pressure tester goes back on. Okay, cross your fingers with me, guys. 16 PSI. Now what I'm gonna do is let that marinade. It's gonna drop like a small touch, maybe like 1/3 of a PSI possibly, and it usually does it right off the bat. And so I'll pump it up a little bit and I'll put the needle just a tick past 16 so I know like, okay, if it drops to 16, it's okay. But really what we're listening for is noise. You can hear and see coolant leaks, but so far so good. Anyways, I'll check back with you guys in a minute. Hopefully no leaks. Let's go. Uh-oh, I hear something. Can you hear that? It might be my pressure tester. Okay, it's 16.5. Any bubbles? I hear it. I feel like it's literally the cap. I feel like it's my pressure tester cap. I got an idea. This gasket on here is pretty smoked. I think that might be the reason why. But technically, it's going up. No, it could leak externally through the threads. And what we'll do to test it is we'll load this up with simple green and then flip it quick. Put some simple green in those threads, lube the little gasket. I need a Snap-on dealer, all my stuff. There's so many things I need a warranty. 16.5. Yeah, I can hear it. I think that fitting's leaking. One way we can figure that out is if I take a rag and I wrap it around it and it changes in sound, then I know it's the fitting. And it did. It's my cooling system pressure tester fitting. It's just barely leaking. 16. Yep, bubble, boom. Confirmed. A little bit of diagnostic troubleshooting on the diagnostic troubleshooting tool. All right, so we're okay. The cap is gonna seal much better, and as long as we don't have any external leaks from anywhere else, we should be good. So I'm still gonna let it marinate. Everything's looking really good so far. We just need to make sure that we don't have leaks from anywhere else. Everything else is looking really good. I'm only seeing soapy water drip down. And I'm not seeing any big dumps in pressure. The big thing is like heater hoses, water pipes, any of that stuff that's gonna be super buried once we put the intake on. It's like, I ain't taking this intake manifold back off. No way, Jose. So I think we're good. Yeah, I need a new gasket for that thing. Another thing that you want to do, this is my old expansion tank cap. This is my new one. If you look on the bottom, you see it says 200. That means it's rated for 2 bar. This cap will release at 2 bar pressure. This cap will release at 2 bar pressure. If you're replacing your cap, always match up the numbers. Make sure they have the same rating. On that note, there's a gasket on here. Maybe this will fit my adapter. Maybe, I don't know. It's a little thicker than a Snicker. Oh, almost. It's like, it just doesn't go down in the lips. It's a little too thick, but you know what? Let's try it, baby. Let's try it. Come on now. 17 PSI. No noise? Yeah! Sometimes I impress myself. Boom, no more leaking, baby. We're gonna leave this pressure tester on all day. Let that thing marinate at 17 PSI. Nice, what a win. Okay, I got about an hour left of work I can get done today before I gotta go. Went to church this last Sunday and I really know nothing about religion. I know nothing about scripture, but it's something that I want to learn more of. And I don't have many friends right now, and I figured it would be a great place for some self-improvement and some further learning and to meet some cool like-minded people. So I'm going over to a men's stag sort of Bible study type deal. I'm gonna go kind of check it out, see what it's all about. Not that I don't know if you guys care or not, but I like to share some personal details of my life every now and then. So got about an hour left before I gotta get cleaned up for that. So I'm gonna clean up some tools here and then let's get started on this intake manifold and see what we can get done. So I reassembled this intake manifold so we can have a little bit better view of how everything works. So we have the upper intake hose, we have the lower intake hose. This splits and goes to the idle air control valve, which always tears right here. And then it goes down to the throttle body. We have our DISA valve installed, and we have our sucking jet pump that pulls vacuum to the brake booster. Now, we already talked about the CCV, but one thing we can talk about right here is the DISA valve. This intake manifold has 2 different length runners, and at low end torque, it basically, the valve moves and causes the intake to choose the long length runners, which I believe increases velocity and helps with low end torque. Then it opens up and goes to the short length runners when you're at higher RPM, I believe. If I'm mistaken, please correct me in the comments. And then the idle air control valve here, basically when you're sitting at idle, that throttle body's closed, right? And that idle air control valve actually allows air to pass through these small ports right here, which is what keeps our idle dialed in while the car is running. Also, correct me if I'm wrong there. Here we have our purge valve hose, and that's where the fuel tank vent valve or the purge valve re-injects those gasoline vapors back into the intake stream. Here we have the sucking jet pump connection where it gets its source vacuum from. And then on the backside here, this is basically like a secondary air solenoid valve. So what it does is this piece, there's a piece that tore off, goes over here, and this valve gets source vacuum from this hole right here, and then it goes through this check valve into this, and then when the secondary air needs to open up, which is that little valve over on the exhaust manifold, this triggers it, it sends vacuum to the secondary air valve over there, it opens it up, and then that secondary air pump kicks on, and it pushes air down into the catalytic converters to get it to heat up faster. So when you first start your car up and it's cold and it sounds like it's running a vacuum cleaner for 20 seconds, that's that secondary air pump pushing all that air down into the cats to get it up to temp faster. So now that we know all that and we went over the details, and please, if I had anything wrong, guys, please correct me. We already went over the CCV. Let's start taking this thing apart and get it torn back down again, and we'll start working on replacement of the CCV and the sucking jet pump hose and all that good stuff. I'm also gonna be doing what's called an O2 pilot mod on this intake. I've never done this before, but I've heard a lot of people talk about it being extremely beneficial for reducing oil consumption on these engines. And I talked to my homie Rob's Weekend Garage earlier today. Shout out Rob if you're watching this. Also, if you guys like DIY BMW content, check out Rob's Weekend Garage. He's a stellar human. He makes great content. And if you guys like BMW DIY content, he is your guy. He's killing it. Also, I wish you a speedy recovery, Rob. He just had surgery on his second shoulder surgery. Sending all the love his way. For the O2 pilot mod, I guess what you do is you pull this plug here off the back of the intake manifold and you route a piece of vacuum line from there over to this guy right here. This breather has a factory vacuum cap on it, and I guess you take that out, and I guess it maybe helps supply extra vacuum to the cyclonic oil separator, and my assumption would be that it allows the cyclonic oil separator to separate that oil from the vapors that go through the system. So maybe it allows it to work more efficiently. I'm not sure, but I don't know if this vehicle is consuming or not. I'd like it to not consume for the future winner, whoever wins this car. So I figured it would be a good idea for us to knock it out. So let's take this thing back apart. We're gonna remove the DISA valve. Oh, and the one hose I didn't talk about, this small vacuum line that goes to the F valve, this little F connector, this one runs down to the fuel pressure regulator. That's how the fuel pressure regulator gets its source vacuum. DISA comes back out. Okay, now we'll pull the idle air control valve. And throttle body. Okay. Ooh, this hose is terrible. This hose needs replacing too. I'll probably just have to get some vacuum line from up the street. Let's do this sucking jet pump hose first. So let's flip this sucker on her back. And before I pop that, let's look at the new hose. I bought 2 pieces of it. So this one, it doesn't really look the same, does it? Oh, I have this new piece. Great. Okay, that's the same-ish. No, it's really not. This thing looks kind of aftermarket though. Like it's got electrical tape on here, got this aftermarket hose clamp. Someone's been in here before and I don't like it. So this is all brand new. It's just a little long. If that's gonna go on there, it's gonna be sitting way outside. I think it'll be okay. Let me pop this off, we'll test fit it. Why are you different? I can always cut it down too. That's another thing, I can just cut it. Okay, I'm gonna use these little Knipix mini bolt cutters I got and just bust right through this thing. Oh yeah, like butter, like butter, mantequilla. Quite excited about refreshing this. Just don't know why that length is so different. I don't think the length is a problem. Clipped in. I think that'll be okay. Yeah, I don't see why this extra little elbow down here would be of any issue. We'll see when I put the intake back on. If it starts fighting me or something, I can cut it down, but I don't think it'll be an issue. Let's pop this back off and throw a hose clamp on it. I like the orientation. Looks good. I went to Harbor Freight 2 days ago and they had a sale on hose clamps. It was only $5 for these 40 piece. I bought another one that's got some bigger sizes in it too. So let's see the quality on these things. See if it can keep up with the German hose clamps that are on this car. They're a little wider, which is a slight bummer, but they'll still work just fine. Got a nice assorted bag here. That's a little too big. Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, I tried to replace one of these while the intake manifold was still in the car. Not an easy idea. I ended up leaving this lower section and just replacing it at the valve. It is so hard to get access to this thing while the intake is in the car. All right, that feels pretty good. It's all clipped in, nice. And then afterwards, we'll install the new top piece, something like that. See, this one's a touch longer too. Maybe they just shrink over time, I don't know. But I got this new upper hose and then I got a new check valve because this is a one-way valve to not let the vacuum out of the booster. Next, let's get this thing out of here. This is this little sealing boot for the IAC, for the idle air control valve. There we go, boom. That guy's out. Let's lube this new one up. Lube the exterior, lube the interior so our idle air control valve will seat nicely. Then there's a little notch, just like that. All right, she is seated. Next, crankcase ventilation system. I kicked this hose earlier while it was on the ground, but this one goes up to the valve cover. Get that off. Look at all that water mixed with oil in there, just from, you know, condensation, the engine sitting, all that oil. It's nice to be replacing it. And next, what I'm gonna show you guys is a little trick. You can do these CCVs while the engine is in the car. It's a little more difficult though. Let's see, what can I show you? Our first step is gonna be getting this hose out of the way. And that hose is this little guy right here. This connector isn't bad. These connectors suck. I just have never learned how to get them off well. I normally just gotta get in there with a pick tool and mangle them. So that's what I'm gonna try to do right now. Because normally I'll just take a pair of dikes and cut this and rip it out, but I wanna see if I can disassemble it because I just wanna punish myself. And I'll try for like 2 minutes and then I'll probably end up just cutting this thing off. I've never understood how these connectors work. I'm over it. Nobody's gonna be reusing their CCV anyways, so break it. Okay, over here we have to disassemble it. And if you look at the new hose, this one has this demonic clip on it. This one is just standard push. So I'm gonna pull down on this side, pocket screwdriver, lift up on that side, lift up on this side. Oh, and that one's broken too. We'll get it off this way. Use my big long boys, if I can get it that way. There we go. So this one's just a squeeze. All right, so we got the broken piece out of there. So that is the part that connects the CCV to this bridge, which I believe reintroduces the air split between all the intake runners. So what I really wanted to show you guys is if you're doing this and you're not removing the intake manifold, if you cut that out and disconnect that, what you do is you come over here, same style pressure clip. There we go. Okay, so you have this top pipe cut out of the way. Then you have this bottom one disconnected, right? This bottom one connects into here, into the CCV. But it's not a standard push connection. It's actually a rotation. So this hose goes from here up into this gap in the intake manifold. If you take this pipe and rotate it down, it'll go to the open position right here. And then you can just slide it in and out. And then with the throttle body and the intake, idle air control valve and everything removed, you can come down here, disconnect that hose, disconnect this pipe to the valve cover, disconnect this one to the dipstick drain, and then you can remove the CCV and you can replace the entire CCV system with the intake manifold fully installed in the car. It's not easy, it's challenging, but you can do it. Looks like T25s. And then the cyclonic oil separator part of the CCV will come out. Now what I'd really like to do is, first of all, show you the amount of mustard in there. Like that's insane, dude. Look at all that garbage. Look at all that junk. So much junk. And what I want to do next is, a lot of these BMW CCVs are serviceable, right? But you really should just replace the entire system on the MT4. I wouldn't do just the diaphragm. But if you split this case open, we can look at the diaphragm. So let's do that. There we go. Get off of there, little buddy. And what we'll find in here is a diaphragm and a spring. Oh, look at all that cheese. Look at all that duck butter. So this spring goes on there like that. And then this diaphragm on N62s and other BMWs where they are actually serviceable, these diaphragms will tear and it'll affect the vehicle's ability to regulate crankcase pressure, can also act as a vacuum leak. And so you see there, the diaphragm goes down and then it goes down here into the cyclonic oil separator and then it drains back down and continues the cycle. So I believe what happens is crankcase vapors come down from the valve cover into here. It's then separated and then this diaphragm acts as a one-way check valve. So the vapors can only come up. And then once they come up, they go into this pipe that goes up top and then distributes it across the intake runners. That is what I think how it works. If I'm mistaken, please correct me in the comments. Let's start putting this thing back together. New breather in like that. And if you look here, this CCV does not have a vacuum cap on it. So we should take our old vacuum cap. We're gonna be pulling this to do that O2 pilot mod. But that's also exactly why I ordered a set of vacuum caps for this intake, because there are 2 caps back here as well. And these caps can crack and break and cause vacuum leaks. So if you're gonna get in here, you might as well do it right? You might as well do it once and do it right. So next step is going to be this little guy right here. It's a little tougher to lube these because the clips are sort of in the way, but just do your best. Work a little grease down in there. You only want to do it once. You don't want any vacuum leaks when you're done. And then what we do is we come through here and we get it like that, right? And it's fully seated. This breather has a special design on it to where you can fit it in like that. And then you take this hose and you rotate it and lock it in a position on that breather. And to show you a different way, I'm gonna remove it just by turning it and it comes right off. And if you want, you can go the OG way and you can just simply put this in there and then bring this piece up and through and get it lined up for that connection. And then you can take this piece and simply just clip it on like you would a standard vacuum, you know, standard breather component, and it'll just clip right into place. Another thing I wanted to check on, I thought I had O-rings for resealing this plate, but I don't think I do, so we'll let it ride. I didn't see any vacuum leaks from there when I smoke tested it. Okay, let's actually get this thing on now. Heard one click. There's the second. Yep, looks nice, looks good. And over here, take a pocket screwdriver, make sure she's fully turned and into the lock position. Feels good. We're gonna smoke test this thing too. Okay, next pipe. This guy, lube these up. Okay, goes on there, clipped in, comes across, plugs in. Okay, our drain back hose for the CCV is still in the vehicle. And then this one is this guy that goes from CCV up to valve cover. I'll put it on now, but we might have to remove it. It might be in the way when we go to reinstall, but we'll install it for now. There we go. And you should hear two clicks out of them. Sometimes you only get one click. You know you're not fully seated. Next, bust out our new vacuum cap set. Oh, I spilled. And pop this guy off, this big one. Rob told me earlier today, these big ones always split. And would you look that? Big one is split. We're not gonna be doing the pilot mod off of this big one. We're gonna do it off of the smaller one. So new vacuum cap goes on there. This vacuum cap will take off for the pilot mod. And then what we need to do next is peel off this vacuum line. And let's see if we can separate it from this check valve. This check valve is gonna go this way. So black towards manifold, white towards valve. Okay, cool. That makes sense because it's going to be sucking towards the black. So we should be able to suck through the black, but we can't blow. So the check valve is still good. And I got a bunch of vacuum line from FCP Euro. So now we'll take some of this, just cut ourselves a little extra slack. I got a bunch of line. We're gonna attach onto here, okay? And then this guy's gonna go back here, and this is gonna be source vacuum for our secondary air system, okay? And then let's take a snippy, white towards valve, make this a little shorter, keep it tight and out of the way. Boom, just like that. Now we got a refresh line, and then this line right here is output from the valve, and this, let me grab the camera and show you. The output vacuum from that valve goes to this guy right here, and it tore as I was removing it. And then that hard vacuum line runs down here, and it goes underneath the O2 sensor wires, and then it connects all the way to right here. So when that valve commands vacuum, it pulls vacuum all the way over here to this valve, and that vacuum line causes this valve to open up, and then this secondary air pump kicks on and goes woo, and pumps air from here down into that connection, and then it flows down into the exhaust manifold and gets the cats hot. All right, I got 10% battery life left, and I'm almost out of time for the day. So last item, let's peel this gasket out. I accidentally ordered 2 intake gaskets, but at least I got extras. And there's not really much for oil in there. We'll spray it out and clean it anyways. But these M54 intake manifold gaskets are great. It's one of the best gaskets they put on this car. They just never leak. And then let's do some over here. That should get the job done. It's time for me to go get cleaned up. We're gonna let this brake cleaner evaporate, and then when I come back tomorrow morning, we'll slap in a new gasket, and we will clean up the mating surface on the cylinder head and start putting this intake manifold back together. Then we'll do that little Pilot O2 mod. I think we'll do that before we put the intake manifold back in, and this thing's gonna be running in no time. See you guys tomorrow. All right, gang, it's the next day, and check this out. Left the cooling system pressure tester on this thing overnight. It held at 16 PSI all night long. Couldn't ask for better results. Now let's jump back into this intake manifold. I just finished making a short on what's called the O2 pilot mod. Now, this is a modification that was created by a forum user several years ago. And what you do is there is a blank vacuum cap, an empty vacuum port back here on the intake manifold. And what you do is you take a piece of vacuum line and you attach it here to the source vacuum at the manifold, and we pull the vacuum cap off here at the cyclonic oil separator. What we're going to be doing is attaching a 3.5 millimeter piece of vacuum line from source vacuum to the cyclonic oil separator. And what this is supposed to do is it's supposed to increase crankcase vacuum and increase the efficiency of the cyclonic oil separator. Now, like we talked about, this separates the oil from the crankcase vapors. It gets recirculated up, and that oil drains back down into the dipstick and back down into the oil pan. So by attaching this vacuum line, we're increasing increasing the vacuum inside the crankcase and possibly increasing the efficiency of the cyclonic oil separator. Have any of you guys out there done this O2 pilot mod? And if so, can you let me know in the comments whether you've had success with it or not? I'm gonna give it a try because it can't hurt, and I don't want the future owner of this car to have to deal with oil consumption. So let's find a nice way to route this vacuum line. I'm not exactly sure on where I want to go with it yet, and then we'll continue on this intake manifold. So right now I'm test fitting the idle air control valve, and I want to see if I can sneak this vacuum line up above it, because it looks like there's a perfect little path that we can go through back here to the intake manifold. I think this should fit. Yeah, we can go right here, right above it. I want it to be clean and out of the way and not look like some janky aftermarket vacuum line sitting in the engine bay. I could also go just underneath. That's a little bit too tight. I like that. That's somebody clean. It's gonna be out of the way. I think one improvement we can do on it is run it back here. I don't want it rubbing against this sharp bracket when the engine's vibrating. Go like this. Keep a nice bend in that and come through here, up like that, and then behind this vacuum loop. I like that. That's pretty clean. Oh yeah, that's nice. It's not gonna flop out of the way. We don't have a big kink in it. It's gonna be held up by this bracket right here. Yeah, I like that. We're gonna let that ride like that, I think. Time for intake manifold gaskets. All right, it's about time to start putting this intake manifold back in. There's just a couple things we need to do to get it prepped. I'm gonna cut this old vacuum line off of this hard pipe back here that goes to the secondary air valve. I have a new piece already fitted on the intake manifold. I just wanna have everything as prepped as I can get it. All right, we gotta start cleaning this cylinder head mating surface because this thing is filthy. I wanna be careful not to drop any debris down these small little ports. My main focus is just the surface in which the intake manifold seals against the cylinder head, just to where the intake manifold gasket goes. The rest of this stuff we should be able to get out with a proper engine clean and degrease after we do the oil leak repairs. You want the smoke? You want the smoke? Come here. It's okay, come here. Come here. Good girl, good girl, good girl. Woo! All right, I'm not afraid to admit, I am not looking forward to this next part, but it must be done. You know, it's just a little daunting because you gotta route this power cable through and there's plugs on this injector harness that need to make it onto their connectors. And it's just kind of a tough intake to get back in, but we're gonna do our best here. Try to lead by example. Okay, so this is routed through. Step one. Before I seat it, other big things that I need to do is plug in the plug that goes to the secondary air control valve. I don't know which one that is. It's one of these two coming off the back of this ignition harness. I think it's this lower one, this shorter one off the injector harness. Okay, you go there, and then this other one off the injector harness goes to this plug just below number 6 intake port. Okay, you go there. All right, next step is we need to get that fuel line connected before we fully seat this intake. Here's our fuel line, here's our hose. Okay, fuel line's on, and there's a little bracket for it. Okay, I think we're okay to keep going. Get our gasket back in place. It's falling out a little bit. This needs to go routed under here. Okay. Now the big trick to getting this thing on is getting that lower intake manifold bracket fitted onto that stud for that 16 mil. And then from there, everything kind of falls into place. This harness is gonna get in our way, this injector harness. Let's see if we can bring it over to where it's supposed to go. I think that should free us up a little bit. Okay, I like that. See that bracket? This whole thing needs to, and this harness is on the wrong side. This needs to come, that plug needs to come out. This harness needs to go on top, like that. And then this plug, that should prevent some of the restrictions we've been having. I can see my bracket. Intake manifold gasket falling out again, like that. I should have put a little Curl T in there or something to hold them in place. Come on, go home. Okay, stay, please. Gotta take your time. That lower bracket is the real trick. Okay, check our gaskets. This one fell out again. I captured that stud, but these studs aren't lined up anymore. A lot of times when I do water pipes on these cars, I'd actually just crack the intake manifold up. I wouldn't remove it completely, but today I wanted to do a full removal. I should have put a little sealant on these gaskets, keep them in place. Come on, gasket. Stay on there. Stay on there, little sucker. Try not to cuss for you guys so you can watch it with family and kids. Sometimes I want to. No! Stay. Son of a gun. Fine, I'll do it. I'll do it now. Okay, I put a touch of Curl T on the gasket surface. See if we can get it to stay in a little bit better. All I'm doing is just taking my favorite sticky sealant that I love to use, Curl T. It cures up tacky, which is nice. It's not a silicone. I don't believe in silicone RTV. Only when it's factory. Just throwing a little dab on 3 pieces on each. Hopefully that'll help a little bit. Okay, back to the pain in the ass of getting this intake back in. Maybe this breather pipe's getting in the way. Let's pull this off. Come on now, there we go. Disconnect this plug down there. Maybe you're getting in the way. Gasket still wants to fall out a little bit. That's okay. This Vanos solenoid's definitely in the way a little bit. So close. Gaskets look good. I got it started on the studs. I just got to capture that lower stud, that big 16 millimeter. There's the bottom. Got it. Gaskets still in place. Come on. No, I think I lost the bottom. No, I got the bottom. See that rocking motion there? Something's in the way. Feels like it's in the middle because it's rocking left to right. It might be because we have a little extra length here, and that extra length is hitting on the starter. All right, I tried to get away with the extra length on the suction jet pump, but this thing needs to route up through this valley. And right now it's all the way over here, so I grabbed it and I pulled it up like that, and then it put too much pressure on this O2 pilot mod piece. So flathead screwdriver, DC this hose clamp. And what we're gonna do is take the old hose, match it up directly on top of each other. See, even this section right here is a little long too. I think we'll be able to make it work, but we need to cut the hose off there. We can modify that top piece, put an extra hose clamp, put a new hose clamp on it, do what we gotta do. Taking off all that. Moral of the story is, if it doesn't fit, don't force it. Take a little time, observe it, see what's catching. I had a feeling that might give me issues. Hopefully that works. Before we try this again, we're gonna glue these gaskets in. Okay. Check the gasket, go back and forth, check the gasket, back and forth. Come on, Alec. Come on, E46. We need to give this car a name. Guys, comment down below what you think the name of this car should be. Let's give her a name. Pendeja? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, I'm gonna start putting these intake manifold nuts on it, see if it wants to seat. If I feel any resistance, I'm gonna stop, but our stud on the bottom is showing. We're in good shape there. Dipstick drain hose is lined up nicely. All right, let's start putting these nuts on. Now, if there's ever a time where you need a magnetic 11 millimeter socket, it is here. Taking it off, if you drop the intake manifold nut, it's okay, you can get them. Putting it back on, if you drop them, that's a different story. You're going fishing with a magnet. So, ultimate BMW hack, 11 millimeter socket, folks. I'm stoked on the cooling system though. 16 PSI overnight, that's phenomenal. We're gonna smoke test this afterwards too, make sure we didn't forget any connections. I don't have that much stud sticking out, but there's also these little inserts that go around the stud. They can pop up a little bit and reduce a little bit of your thread length. That's why I'm gonna put these on, snug the manifold down, see how it sits. Probably actually not do all of them. That way if it doesn't sit right, we don't have to spend as much time taping. Oh, I just dropped a nut out of my hand, down behind the expansion tank. Back here, little buddy. There we go. Well, before we get too crazy, let's just snug some of these down. I'm gonna use a small little ratchet so I don't over torque and break anything. Let's just start in the middle and see how this thing sounds and feels as we snug it. Looking pretty good so far. Nothing's binding. The amount of studs showing behind each nut all looks even, symmetrical, which is what I'm looking for. Yeah, we're looking good so far. Okay, I think we got it seated. I just gotta get the rest of these nuts on. This one in the back is gonna be the most problematic, so I'm gonna ditch my magnetic and I'm going to use a wobble 11 millimeter 1/4 inch socket. I'm gonna take a little piece of butyl tape, shove it on the side of that nut. That way, it's gonna stay inside my socket. And now, we gotta try to finagle this thing in there. All right, one more. And I'm just gonna make sure they're all tight. Okay, whew, a little bit of progress. She's looking like a car again. Okay, time to keep going. Next step, we gotta get this 16 millimeter nut down onto that little stud down there. Again, I'm taking a little piece of butyl tape and I'm putting it on the side of the nut there. Slip it into my 16 mil wobble socket. She ain't going nowhere. Having wobble sockets is a huge help on these cars. I like to have 1/4 inch and 3/8. I don't have any 1/2 inch. That dang starter wire is gonna be in my way. See if I can bend it out of the way for a minute. Nope, you don't wanna go that way. Stay up just long enough for me to get that nut on, okay? Please. Boom, crank that sucker down. Okay, now what do we have to do? We'll do the suction jet pump later. What we need to do now is probably throttle body. Yeah. No, what we should do right now is get this CCV connected. So I'm gonna reach down here to the dipstick drain hose, get that put back on. 16 PSI still, and get this pressure tester out of my way. I'm so happy that thing held pressure overnight with my makeshift adapter fix. Way more confident now. It's hard to attach this drain hose back on because I have this dipstick tube pushed out of the way, but I have access to get down to it right now with the throttle body out, so it's my best time to do it, I think. It's gonna be a challenge though. Disconnect this alternator, you're kind of in my way. I think I got it. Looks seated. Okay, now let's work on this throttle body next. Look at the carnage on this workbench. This thing's clean, I'm not even gonna touch it. I'm just gonna pick the old gasket out. Gasket's still good too. Drop this guy in. And then again, we'll have those 4 long throttle body bolts and then one little 10mm nut that secures the harness onto this stud. I always want to give you guys the best view possible, but in order for me to get down here and the camera to be down there, like, I just don't understand how I can do it. And so I do my best to try to get you guys the best camera angles possible, but it's not always the best. You know what I'm saying? Now this harness is a little wonky. It's catching on this jet pump. This wire's tight. I got a plug that goes to the secondary air and it's wedged. It's causing this cable to be too tight. The harness isn't dropping down into the position it needs to be at. So we gotta fix that. All right, I'll put that plug on after. There we go. That's how the harness should look. Yeah, starting to go feral. All right, where's my extension? There it is. If it doesn't fit right, don't force it. Okay, now the harness wants to go back in. We drop this little ear back on the stud on the throttle body, like that. Our little nut. Gotcha. Now we can plug the throttle body back in. Ah, nice. We're getting there. All right, let's knock out this wire that I had to unplug right here. So this needs to go up, plug into the secondary air valve. Ah, nice. Okay, we're getting closer. We're making progress. Next, let's move over to this injector harness. Start giving myself a little bit of room back here to get that secondary air valve line connected. So what I do is just lift this pipe up and out of the way a little bit, go down, get all of these injector connectors started, make sure I'm on them. Oh, one thing I need to check too, I need to make sure all the clips, because I opened up those clips. Oh yeah, my clips are in place. And get this hose out of the way a little bit. Send all these connectors home. Okay, guy goes on there and you go down to Vanos solenoid. Progress. Now I got this little vacuum line that comes off the secondary air valve. I'm gonna plug it into the hard pipe that runs over to the valve. Okay, and then these O2 sensor wires that I flopped out of the way. This one and this one, these go under, over to here. I'll fix those in a minute. Okay, that all looks good. We have our vacuum line from the fuel pressure regulator over here. We'll attach that to the F connector when we're done. Guy get clipped into there. Okay, idle air control valve next. Actually, before we keep going over there, before I go too deep on that, I got some plugs back here I need to reconnect. Like this one to the oil filter housing. This one, what do you go to? I think maybe you go to, no, you don't go to the... We got this one, that's gonna be mass airflow. This one's gonna be DISA valve. That one's idle air control valve. This single wire goes to alternator. This one, oil filter housing. There's a lot of little plugs down there. Then I still am looking for one plug that goes to the purge valve. I don't know where you went. Your purge valve, your mass airflow, your DISA, your idle air control valve. Next, idle air control valve. Before I put it in, I'm just gonna clean it with the little brake cleaner. Get her thumping nice. Just lube it with a little silicone. I've never had to replace one of these. I've only had to clean them. They are strong little units. And this new boot I put in there is a little tougher to get it seated. There we go. That's fully seated. Okay, T40s for the IAC. Now previously, somebody double stacked nuts on here. They had the factory nut. Didn't know what they were doing. Put another nut on top. And that little bracket I bent, just bend it back up straight, put it back on there. And we reduced the weight on this car by one nut. Okay, and plug our idle air control valve back in. Boom. Okay, we're getting there. Next step, I think, is gonna be intake boots. It's nice to put this lower on before you put the DISA valve in. Gives you a lot better access for these hose clamps. Before we do that, there's a plastic piece in here that we have to separate that connects the lower boot to the upper boot. So I'm gonna make a mental note. The elbow that the F connector attaches to is pretty much right in line with the middle of that turkey neck. So when I separate it like that, swap my hose clamp over to this one, pop this clamp, pop this guy in there. Okay, and then take our new boot, hose clamp, like so, rotate it, center, make our hose clamps look pretty, make them match. And you can bust this clamp loose and rotate it a little bit to get the fitment right once you put the air box in. We'll swap our clamps. This guy goes here, this guy goes here. Now, when you install these intake boots, there's this piece right here, and there's a slot on the bottom of the throttle body. So when you're going down, feel with your fingers, make sure that this notch is fully inserted into that slot. I usually do this one first, and the biggest hack, having a wobble 6mm socket like this. It just makes hose clamps and intake boots so much easier. So I'm reaching down, I'm feeling for that slot. Nice, fell all the way down. This hose clamp's a little bit too tight. It's pretty easy to think that you have this intake boot fully seated on the throttle body, but really you don't. Just speaking from experience. Hard part is getting down there and tightening the hose clamps. That's where having this wobble socket really comes in handy. Now once I'm on there, I'll go down and I'll hold that hose clamp in position. You know, what'd help is if I pop this thing out of the way. Oh yeah, now I got loads of room. Pop that sucking jet pump out of its connector. Get on there. Okay, it's not a bad idea to go down there and check it with an inspection mirror. And it's a good thing I did because I missed the bottom of the boot. The clamp's on the top, but it's on the throttle body on the bottom. So I need to redo that. It's exactly why you got to double check your work. Woo! Come on, you stupid clamp. Stay right there. Got it. I think. Gotta double check it. I don't want to, but I'm gonna. Oh yeah. Oh, I gotta do the dipstick tube as well. All right, where's that hose clamp I dropped? There it is. All right, time to get this idle air control valve boot on. Okay, that's seated. Okay, that's tight. Now put our sucking jet pump back into the connector if we can. There we go. Okay, yeah, before I get too far right here, I need to go over and do this dipstick tube. Put that little 13mm bolt back in and mount it up to the engine mount bracket over here. Purge valve. Okay, there's our 13. Easy peasy. Snug it up with the 1/4" ratchet. We're gonna be replacing the dipstick tube O-ring on this dipstick tube once we do the oil leaks, which will probably be next video. We'll do like valve cover, oil pan, and oil filter housing. Old boots. See ya. Put that hose clamp on for the air box. And now we'll do the rest of the sucking jet pump hose right here. And after we do that, we'll do DISA valve. So this is our hose, plugs into the brake booster here, and then runs down to that connection. So length is good. So let's test fit it. Okay, that looks good. Boom. Okay, so let's get our hose clamps, sorted hose clamp set. And here is a brand new check valve, genuine BMW. It's like that end goes into booster. Come over here. And this is a check valve, so the intake manifold can only pull vacuum because the brake booster, when your car is off, it still has vacuum in it. Okay, and we're gonna wait to connect this. And well, actually, we're gonna do it now for the smoke test. Maybe we'll run the car. Come on, go in the booster. There we go. Get in there. Go to your home. Okay, DISA valve is next. And we're gonna be replacing this because I've confirmed that it is no good. What are you hitting on, dude? DISA valve plug back on. Purge valve that I flopped out of the way. We can now flop this back into the way. There's my connector. Connector goes on, and we gotta plug her back into this hose. And then it goes up onto this bracket. Okay, power steering bottle can go back. And then air box, mass airflow sensor. We need a small piece of vacuum line to connect this piece to the F connector. Okay, you know what? There's too much old hose residue on here. So I'm just gonna circumcise it. Take the tip. There we go. You go onto the F connector. Boy, we're getting close. Oh, I gotta put that 10mm back in for the harness bracket right there. Okay, and I believe all that we have left is just the mass airflow sensor connector. All right, while I keep going on this thing, we're gonna get a smoke machine hooked up to it. This is the Ventus by Autoline Pro. I work with these guys quite a bit. If you need a diagnostic smoke machine, intake, evap, exhaust leaks, I'll put a link for this thing in the description for you guys. Great way to check to see if your intake is leaking. Oh my gosh, I'm so stupid. I forgot the CCV line to the vacuum, or to the valve cover. Luckily, I'm pretty good at sneaking these things in, even with all this stuff in the way. So it goes from here down through there, captures onto there. That goes up to the valve cover, and then I should be able to sneak this pry bar down. You see it? Can you dig it? Disconnect these plugs off the oil filter housing, give myself a little bit more room. Might be able to get my hand in there. I got one click, looking for two. What side click? Flashlight. Okay, I think we got the top to click. We should be able to get a pry bar down here. You're right there, dude. Just clip into place. I don't want to break this new breather. Sometimes when they're a little older, they need a little bit more lube. Okay, that is about as lubed up as you can get it. Purge valve hose goes on top. You're right there. You're just not clicking. Did you go on without clicking? Dude, you were fully seated and you didn't click? Did I just get it? I think I did. We'll find out when I smoke test it. Don't fight me now, valve cover. Get in the hole. Yeah, that's far too tight. It's on, but I'll order a new one of these hoses when I do the valve cover. Okay, now we can get into the smoke test. Plug these connectors back in for the oil filter housing, drop our power steering bracket back over. Now while that pressurizes the system with smoke, nice gloves, Alec, we're gonna come over here and I'm gonna remove the secondary air pump. I need to get access to this vacuum line down behind it because it's gooey and torn. And it's not gonna be a vacuum leak, but it is gonna affect our vehicle's ability to circulate and to start the secondary air process. So, couple 10 millimeters, unplug it. So down underneath this O2 sensor is the rest of this hard line, and this hard line ends at this super gooey piece of vacuum line. Like, this is original vacuum line. It's just a gooey mess. It just fell right apart as soon as I twisted it. So we got to replace this vacuum line too. Boom, that's all we had to do. Put our O2 sensor wire back. Drop our hose clamp in the coolant. Okay, hose clamp. And while we're here, we might as well put this guy back on so we can start the car. 19. I might have to break it loose. I forget which wire here clips into the cowl, but we'll figure out that later. When you take this apart, you can get these two mixed up here sometimes. Well, 19. Okay, now I am not seeing a single wisp of smoke. I gotta check down to my CCV hose. No smoke down there, no smoke underneath, no smoke in the back, and no smoke down along my intake manifold. And the way we can check if the system is properly pressurized and filled with smoke, boom, all the way up to the valve cover, all the way up through that hose, all the way up through the intake. This thing is dialed. We would have seen smoke with that much pressure in the system. Now we can disconnect this thing. Next, I'm gonna take these clips and reinstall them in the fuel rail. They're just going like this. Popped them out to give myself access for the hardware. And the long one goes first, here, like that. Wire goes underneath the connector, and then the short one goes on top of the long. Boom. And now we have our O2 sensor wires tucked out of the way. She's coming together. We're gonna fire it up really soon. Oh, look at that water pump, baby. Oh, I got the fan clutch first try. Can be a good day. Snug it down. Put our torque screw back in for the fan shroud. Fit this little doohickey in there. Push pin over here. Expansion tank cap. We're gonna do more bleeding, and we'll also check the coolant level once we let the car cool down. But for now, I'd rather have it a little overfilled than underfilled. And now, air box. We're so close, I can taste it. 3 days of hard work. We put some work in on this car. Power steering bracket bolts. And last but not least, battery. Let's go. All right, I think we're ready to fire this thing up. Intake hoses, DISA, idle air control valve, secondary air hose, breather, dipstick, entire cooling system, pressure tested, fans back in, fan shrouds back in, secondary air pump, secondary air vacuum line, batteries connected. We just have this little piece to put in the back corner, but I want to run it first. I think we're good. Let's turn the key and see what happens. And if we get a check engine light, we'll check codes, but I'm not going to check codes before I run it. I trust my judgment. I think I did everything correctly. So let's send it. All right, I'm gonna give it ignition on for a second. Let it prime up the fuel system. We did a lot of work. the entire cooling system, the entire intake manifold. More work to come. All right, you guys ready? Cross your fingers with me. Fired up, mint, no rough idle. Groovy. We killed it. We killed it. She sounds great. She's running smooth. Yeah, baby, let's go. Let's go do the bleed procedure. So E46s kind of suck to bleed. E39s and E38s are even worse. But what I do is I put it on defrost, max heat, full power, throw the blend door up, and then I like to hold the RPMs up at like 3,000 until the defroster gets so hot that it feels like it's gonna burn my hand, like it's almost burning my hand. Now I only do this process after I've done that initial bleed procedure with the bleed screw like I showed you guys at the expansion tank. Between that bleed procedure, getting the RPMs up, and getting this thing so hot through the heater core that you can feel it almost burn your hand at the defroster, driving it and rechecking the fluid level, you should be good. So now we're at operating temperature. The temp gauge is in the middle. It's getting hot, but it's not there yet. And the reason why I do this is the water pump is circulating and pushing all of that coolant. And now we're getting all that hot coolant into the heater core. The heater core can store air bubbles. It's buried back here in the dash. It's a lot of distance of hose that it has to get through. So when you know you got smoking hot heat coming off of the heater core, you know that you have good steady flow through there inside the dash. And now it's getting to the point to where it's almost unbearable and it's getting really hot. So that's how I know I got it. Now I can back down on RPMs and it stays nice and smoking hot. Sick, boys and girls. If there's any girls that watch this channel, I really don't. I got like 99% male audience, but if you're a girl and you watch, drop a comment. Curious. Anyways, this thing is ready for a road test. So I'm gonna get my drain pan out of here, get it off the lift. And to finish this video up, let's go take this sucker on a hot lap. All right, she's on the ground. No tools left in here. Time to go get some tacos. Sage, come on, load up. Yeah, go in the back. Whoop-ew. All right, Sage, let's go take this thing for a hot lap. Let's go get some tacos. Boy, that was a lot of work, guys. I think this thing is gonna get even more power when we replace that DISA valve. All right, let's put her into sport. First gear. We're winding her out to 6,000. She's doing great. Let's give her a little downshift. The transmission's beautiful. The transmission's doing great. I almost don't want to service it. That was a phenomenal downshift. Shifting really smooth. It's driving really smooth. Boy, she's driving so good. No check engine light, no low coolant light. Give me some knucks, guys. We crushed it. It was not easy. Put a lot of work into this thing. We did like 23 things, probably more. So I really hope you guys enjoyed the video, or I hope that it can be of some help for you with the cooling system on your E46 or your M54, no matter what chassis it's in. A lot of people think like, oh, can you show an E39, M54? It's the same engine, guys. It's the same process. You might have a couple little different pieces for the micro filter and the fan shroud and stuff like that, but it's the same engine. It's the same process. Taco time, taco time. 5 carnitas street tacos, baby. I'll show you the goods when we get home. We made it. Successful road test, everybody. Chew! Yeah, let's go. Look at all of this mess. Decimated workbench. That's a later problem. We'll deal with that later. I told you guys I'd show you the goods. We got 5 carnitas street tacos with some extra lime. I'm making a mess. Now it's time to sit for a little bit, chill, and enjoy today's hard work. Before we sign off for today, I want to give a big thank you to Gerardo for making this all possible. I mean, this guy donated his car to me, right? Unbelievable. Such a generous act from him. I also want to remind you that there's like almost $1,000 worth of Knipex tools in the trunk of that car that's going to go to whoever wins it. I don't think we're going to release the giveaway form yet, but it will be coming soon. We got a lot more work to do on this car, and I want it to go to somebody who watches all of these videos and watches the series. I think I'm actually going to put some little questions in there, some little trivia facts that you have to answer in order to qualify to win. So I think that would be kind of fun. I want to do what I can to at least make sure it goes to a good home and somebody that enjoys the content. Also, a huge shout out to FCP Euro in this video. I mean, guys, they gave me like $1,500 worth of cooling system parts for this car. The water pipes, the high performance Stewart water pump, the radiator that wasn't even leaking, but we did it anyways, coolant bracket, all that stuff. You know, they're really taking care of me and they really believe in me in this process. And they're really the ones, a big proponent exponent of the reason why I'm able to do this, because they're able to supply me with all the parts. So if you guys haven't been to FC Puro's website, head over there, check it out, browse their catalog. Big thank you to those guys. I hope you enjoyed, or I hope you learned something new. I'm gonna get to these tacos, and as always, folks, I'll see you on my next day off.